In our modern world, emotions run the show. We get angry in traffic, anxious before meetings, crushed by criticism. We're told to feel everything and follow your heart. But what happens when those feelings lead us into chaos? The Stoics had a very different message. They didn't tell us to suppress our emotions, and they didn't say emotions are bad. They said, you must master them, or be mastered by them. Today, we'll explore how Stoic philosophers like Marcus Aurelius, Epictetus, and Seneca train themselves to remain calm in the face of chaos, and how you can do the same in your daily life. Because emotional mastery isn't about becoming cold, it's about becoming clear. To understand Stoicism, we must first understand this core idea. You are not your emotions. You are the observer behind them, the one who notices them rise, watches them change, and chooses how to respond. This is where most people go wrong. We say things like I'm angry or I'm anxious. But Stoicism teaches us to shift that language, to say I'm experiencing anger, or anxiety is present. Why does that matter? Because if you're experiencing something, you can create space from it, you can choose what to do next, and in that space is your power. Marcus Aurelius, a Roman emperor and Stoic philosopher, wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this and you will find strength." It all begins with one choice, to pause. Epictetus, born a slave and later one of the most respected Stoic teachers, explained the link between emotion and judgment like this. Men are disturbed not by things but by the views which they take of things. In other words, the emotion is not caused by the event itself, but by how we interpret it. Let's say someone cuts you off in traffic. One person shrugs it off, another explodes in rage. Same event, different judgment, different emotion. The Stoics believed that if you could learn to question your initial judgment, you could change your emotional life. Imagine this, you feel jealousy. Instead of reacting, you pause and ask, is this a rational reaction? Or am I assigning too much value to what someone else has? This reflection alone reduces the emotion's grip on you. The Stoics identified 4 primary emotions they called the passions. These are emotions that disturb the mind and cloud our judgment. They are fear, irrational anticipation of future pain; desire, irrational craving for something outside your control; pleasure, indulgence without discipline; distress, sorrow or panic over what has happened. They believed that mastering these was the path to inner peace. Now this doesn't mean you never feel fear or sadness, but it means you don't become enslaved by them. You feel, but you choose your response. Let's break down exactly how the Stoics trained themselves, and how you can use the same tools today. First up, pause before you react. The moment you feel a strong emotion, anger, anxiety, jealousy, just stop. Don't speak, don't act, just breathe. Marcus Aurelius would often remind himself, is this something that is or is not in my control? That single pause, even just 2 seconds, gives your rational mind time to engage. And honestly, that changes everything. Modern neuroscience agrees. When you pause, you shift from emotional reactivity, that's the amygdala, to thoughtful reflection, which is the prefrontal cortex. So, next time something triggers you, just pause. That's not weakness, it's actually strength. Now here's the second technique, name the emotion. When you're overwhelmed, try this. Name it. Say, this is anger, or this is fear. Don't say I am. Say this is, Seneca wrote. No man is more unhappy than he who never faces adversity, for he is not permitted to prove himself. By naming the emotion, you turn it from a storm into a signal. You separate your identity from your state, and that gives you, room to choose your response. Here's technique 3. Examine the story behind the emotion. All emotions are built on a story. You feel hurt because you believe you've been disrespected. You feel anxious because you believe something bad will happen. You feel envy because you believe you're behind. So ask yourself, what story am I telling myself right now? Is it true? Can I reframe this with reason? Epictetus encouraged his students to write down their judgments and examine them rationally. You can do the same. Use a journal. Turn the emotion into a dialogue. Now, for the 4th technique, practice voluntary discomfort. One powerful Stoic tool for emotional mastery. Train your mind by exposing it to controlled discomfort. Seneca, despite being one of Rome's richest men, would dress in rags and eat plain food for days. Why? To train his mind to stop fearing loss, discomfort, or emotional dependency on pleasure. He said, practice yourself for heaven's sake in little things, and thence proceed to greater. Try this. Skip a meal walk in silence, turn your phone off for a day, or just sit with your thoughts without distraction. These acts sound simple, but honestly, they build inner strength. When you can sit calmly with discomfort, emotions no longer control you. Journal like Marcus. Marcus Aurelius didn't write meditations to impress anyone. It was a private journal, a mental mirror. He reflected daily on his emotions, flaws, and reactions, always asking, was I in control today? Did I act with reason or emotion? Where did I lose myself, and how can I do better? Your journal doesn't need to be perfect, it just needs to be honest. Each night ask yourself, which emotion ruled me today? And what would the Stoics have done instead? This habit alone will sharpen your emotional clarity. Live by virtue, not impulse. The Stoics believed that the goal of life was to live according to virtue. Virtue means choosing wisdom over impulse, courage over fear, and justice over self-interest. When a strong emotion hits you, ask, what would a wise person do in this moment? Would they yell back or stay calm? Would they seek revenge or rise above? This simple question aligns you with Stoic practice, because in Stoicism, emotional mastery isn't about suppression, it's about alignment, choosing to live in harmony with your highest self. Let's take one example in depth. Anger. Marcus Aurelius called anger temporary madness. He wrote, how much more harmful are the consequences of anger than the causes of it? The Stoics weren't saying anger is unnatural, they were saying it's dangerous and unnecessary. When you feel angry, ask, what exactly am I angry about? Is it worth my peace? Will this matter tomorrow? You'll often find the answer is no. So instead of feeding the fire, step back, observe it, let it pass. That is Stoic strength in action. Final words, the emotionally unshakable life. Emotional mastery is not about becoming robotic, it's about becoming rooted. The Stoics weren't detached from life. They were deeply engaged, but not enslaved by emotion. They smiled through hardship, they paused in the face of insult. They chose virtue when others chose rage. You can do the same. You will feel anger, fear, jealousy, grief. That's human. But if you can observe your emotions, challenge your thoughts, and choose your responses, you'll become what the Stoics admired most, someone who cannot be shaken by the world, because they've mastered themselves. Thanks for watching Quiet Strength Philosophy. For more timeless Stoic wisdom, subscribe and begin mastering your mind.